endless. The document, it's over 100 pages. I'm not going to take you through the whole thing. I wouldn't do that to anybody. But I probably will go off script a little bit because I didn't write it all out, so I'll be sure not to leave something else that I think is important. But the essence of this is a 30,000-foot overview of the report. The details are in the report, and you have the opportunity to dive in for whatever purpose you, because it's all there. I thank our office staff for putting this all together. Dr. Penny and her team did all the legwork on this. So we'll get started. Greetings and Hafenei, Senator Borham, Mr. Ada, Dr. Wampat, thank you for being here, and my leadership team.
McNish
is your guest board member. I'm sorry. Not seeing I'm already tired. So the board members are here, so thank you for being here. And for my family and friends as well. My pleasure to be with you today to present the overview of the progress we've made and the challenges we've met over the course of the 2024-25 school year. Part of my purpose today is to provide data reflective of our progress, as well as meet the legal requirements of report to the community stakeholders, as well as the leadership of the government of Guam. I'll make some comparisons to trends in American public education and how we are faring here on Guam. There are some notable bright spots that speak of excellent work and tremendous academic success. But there are also some other indicators that reflect the fact that we have much more work to do across our system. In the interest of time and the audience endurance, and I mean that seriously, I'll attempt to frame this like a TED Talk, limiting it to 18 minutes and no more than 5 or 6 slides. And no extensive text, just bullets and pictures. The first slide frames for the rest of this discussion. That's the USS Enterprise. And our GDOE crew is approximately the size and diversity of the crew of a modern aircraft carrier, about 3,200 souls in all, with many different cultural histories and job specialties. All of them must come together day in and day out to deliver on the mission to bring our young learners to the adult world, technologically literate, effective communicators, academically successful, and model citizens. This is a tough mission, and they're in the headwinds of multiple languages, multiple cultures, poverty, domestic violence, substance abuse, and a number of other distractors. All of you are aware of these things, and at least on the intellectual level, but making headway in the classroom when some of these issues arise with real learners swayed by them in another matter entirely, having a trained and motivated crew and stable, committed leadership count as an essential part of the whole program. We're in a 4-year strategic plan, or year 4 of our strategic plan. Year 3 was identified as the year for meeting interim benchmarks to set forth in the initial plan. You'll see that we have met, and in some cases exceeded the 3-year goals, while we're also closing in on many of the others. I believe that with a high level of certainty that we'll meet or exceed most, if not all, of the 5-year benchmarks. As I reflect on the progress made, it is also appropriate that some of the tools that we have selected for this work may not provide the evidence of our work, or perhaps we are not using them with the fidelity and precision that we should. This is one area of inquiry that I continue to lay before our leadership team and define in the coming months. When it comes to the state of public education, it's crucial to recognize that the challenges faced by educators and students alike are not simply a matter of personal shortcomings or lack of effort, deficiency in leadership, absence of vision, or non-existent support. GDOE has made very talented teachers and administrators, dedicated and hardworking staff, leaders with great passion, a clear vision, and stated in the strategic plan, and support from everywhere, including an influx of federal funds aimed at helping the island recover from the aftermath of the pandemic and damaging storms. The persistent struggle to improve educational outcomes, despite the tireless work of dedicated teachers and administrators points to a deeper systemic issue that demands our attention. A recent study in the National Assessment for Educational Progress, which is also known as the U.S. Department of Education assessment, revealed that only 37% of 12th grade students performed at or above proficient level in reading, and a mere 25% demonstrated proficiency in math. That's across the nation. These national results closely parallel our situation in Guam public schools. Assessment data for the GDOE class of 2022, this is going back a little further, showed proficiency in those same areas at 42% meeting standards in English language arts, and only 25% meeting standards in mathematics. Last year, we took up a new assessment tool, the Smarter Balanced Assessment. That measures the progress on mastery of the adopted Common Core state standards, the results that were the baseline data that we are charting progress against now and over the next several years. More on that later in this address. Sobering statistics underscore the urgent need for critical examination of the current educational paradigm and its effectiveness in preparing students for success in the 21st century. Interestingly, Guam Department of Education's graduation rates have steadily increased to over 90%. The scenario also true across the nation that as an average is now hovering around 85%, so we're ahead of that game. The growing body of research suggests that many high school graduates, including Guam DOE's graduates, are not adequately prepared for the rigors of post-secondary education or the demands of modern workforce. At the same time, we also need to recognize that we are having major success with many of our graduates being ready for the world of work, and when they graduate, while others go on to top flight universities and military academies, post-secondary challenges for many of our graduates are well met, and we acknowledge that, but we also acknowledge that we can do better. A study conducted by the National Center for Educational Statistics found that nearly 60% of first-year college students require remedial courses in English and math, or both, indicating a significant disconnect between the skills acquired in high school and those necessary for college success. This truth applies to Guam DOE graduates as well, and as a result raises an important question about the focus of priorities on current education by our current educational system. Focus on test scores and graduation rates at the expense of the meaningful learning and skill development should give us pause to rethink our approach. Within our strategic plan, we have embedded social and emotional support programs, learning supports, instructional coaching, and intervention programs with targeted individual strategies. Yet the results we see are not necessarily consistent with the funding and staffing commitment to them. Again, the questions around the fidelity of implementation arise, and the current work in progress emphasizes fidelity of implementation of proven strategies that yield student success. Our student population is just over 24,000 last year, which is down about 900 from the 22-23 school year. Nearly half of our students, 10,000 plus or minus a few, are not native English speakers, and over 1,800 had documented learning challenges. That's up 200 from the previous school year. Our culture mix was nearly half Chamorro, a fourth Filipino, and fourth Chukis, and a significant group from Yap, Palau, Pohnpei, and other Asian cultures. Among this exciting island culture mix, attendance rates for all the students are hovering right at 88%, keeping the graduation rate up over 90%, and the dropout rates down under 1% overall. Much of this success and the statistics are a result of interventions and support projects at all grade levels, funded through the U.S. Department of Education Consolidated Grant. Social and emotional strategies and supports provided by local social workers, healthcare professionals, counseling, and community outreach programs provide a much needed assistance, especially to learners coming from some cultures that do not include public education as a mandatory part of life. With all our students generally attending daily, there is a level of consistency in the learning environment that is providing for observable academic growth. We must remember that the current school year is the first normal school year since the 1819 school year. COVID and Marwar decimated teaching time, strategies, professional development, and focus on academic progress, as well as systemic performance monitoring. Teachers utilize an assessment tool now called the Ames Web Interim Assessment to understand individual student growth throughout the school year, and the Smarter Balanced Assessment to generate a baseline achievement level for understanding growth against Common Core standards for the next several years, K through 8 and 11. But that's at the end of the school year. So that Ames Web is a very, very important piece of our assessment tools to look at progress monitoring as we go along. The assessment is also intended to be a predictor of success on the Smarter Balance. However, correlation there is not yet as well established as we'd like. But review of the SBA results revealed a wide variation in success between schools in English language arts, reading, and math. This is a parallel to the results that I mentioned earlier regarding graduating seniors ready to function at the post-secondary level. Since the Smarter Balance Assessment is given at the end of the school year, the data generated is more of an autopsy than a diagnostic tool. The leaders are now digging into the data and looking for fidelity of implementation of instructional strategies and materials that have been in place all along. Both the former ACT Inspire data and the Smarter Balance show similar trends against standards being measured with a low rate of students meeting or exceeding standards. I want to talk just a moment about this particular graphic. If you look at the report, you'll see it repeated over and over and over again. But the idea is this: we're breaking out the 4 levels of achievement. The objective, as I put to all the principals and our team, is we want to make the right-hand column smaller and the 3 left-hand ones bigger, no matter what, because the right column is those students that don't meet standards. The checked one, and this is actually from our analysis this year. So it's last year's 11th graders and this year's 11th graders, and I'm looking specifically at the progress in reducing the number of students that are not at standard. So 56% of last year's seniors, or 2 years ago seniors, didn't meet standard in language arts. This last year, the class of 25, 39%. So we cut that down significantly and increased the students that nearly met standards, the ones that meet standards, and ones that in degree that exceed the standards. Our objective is to get everybody into the meets or exceeds. And you have to start though by cutting the bottom part. That means we're moving everybody up, and that's the effort that's going on. But all of the principals have this kind of graphic data for their own school, specific to their students, their student body. And I want to just take the time to remind everyone that I meet the schools that are in the lowest quadrant. We're working very, very closely with, putting extra resources with it, because the mandate is to move the numbers in every case. And in any case, the Common Core standards have been in effect for 14 years, and current strategies have been in place since before the pandemic. But the results are still low regardless of the assessment tool being used. This presents a leadership challenge to change strategies and structures. This has to lead to has led to a realignment of personnel, programs, and grant priorities. Clearly, there's a breakdown in process and desired outcomes that must be addressed going forward. In the near term, I've charged principals and their leadership group at the school level to engage in focused root cause analysis and then implement purposeful, aligned intervention efforts. This investigation and the deliberate implementation of instruction using adopted curriculum with fidelity across the system. And that's, I need to underline the fidelity part. Just as your doctor gave you a prescription, if you don't follow the instructions, you're not going to get the desired results. And sometimes us teachers don't necessarily want to follow the results, or sometimes principals aren't aware. So we're working on that on a day-by-day, case-by-case basis. But we have to have fidelity across the system if we're going to move us forward faster. Materials, methods, and assessments aligned to the target goals, when consistent, are making positive differences in achievement. The GDOE partners with the Guam Community College to provide career and technical education courses at all of our high schools. The CTE training is further extended to Guam Trades Academy for construction trades. These courses and programs are further expanded through JROTC on all of our high school campuses that span Army, Air Force, and Marine Corps leadership development courses in the CTE arena and support expansive science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM opportunities, leading to high school post-secondary education opportunities. In these courses, students are also exposed to the ACT Work Keys assessment and awards that certify job readiness skills for our students as they graduate. Well over 60% of our graduates completed the high school at the bronze level or higher, signifying a higher level of work environment readiness. While this is a targeted outcome of the strategic plan, the level of success and completion falls short currently of where we'd like it to be. The target post-secondary goal set in our leadership group is what I call the 3 E's: enrolled, enlisted, or employed, every graduate when they graduate. GDO faculty and staff provide a crew of dedicated professionals that closely resemble the client base of our school system. During the school year 24-25, there were 3,210 full and part-time employees who provided instructional and support services. 93% of those employees provide direct support to students and staff at the school and building level, in contact with students, or directly supporting teaching and leadership staff at the school. Through the course of the school year, all schools were led by qualified and certified administrators supported by nurses, licensed practical nurses, qualified school counselors, mental health and related medical service providers. It must be noted that GDOE carries a broad public health mission in addition to academic programs. Unlike many stateside school systems, GDOE includes 80 full-time equivalent nursing and allied health professionals as part of our funded crew. There is no argument that these services are needed, but it is a point that must be made that their inclusion here is an anomaly in most U.S. school systems and should be carefully considered in the process of appropriating funds for education that includes significant public health roles. The remaining goal areas for the strategic plan are supported by a significant number of graphic data representations in the print version of the annual State of Public Education report that is being released this week. Some of you have copies of it now. It will also be on our website, available to the public starting tomorrow. These are they're too numerous to insert into this presentation, but they're the result of surveys of all of our stakeholders during the course of the school year, and we have a data sample that the graphs are developed from that is in excess of 13,000 respondents. So it's a very significant, solid number to work with. Print copies have already been furnished in government offices as required by law, and are also searchable on our website. Remembering that these reflect year 3 of the implementation of the strategic plan. We're right now in year 4, but we're looking at did we meet our year 3 goals. One will notice that multiple survey results reflect achievement or approaching achievement of the 3-year targets, and some of them even surpass the 5-year targets. The earlier discussion of assessment results supports the goal area for curriculum, instruction, and assessment in priority area 2, where graduation rates significantly surpass the 5-year performance on the system, and the smart balance assessments in English, language arts, reading, and math are unacceptably low when accepting proficiency levels 2, 3, and 4 as meeting targets. The data in detail is in the hands of principals and their leadership teams for analysis and action. They are in most cases shown improvement on the 2025 assessment, and we did see overall growth, but school by school there are challenges. Further work is in progress to position their schools to make marked improvement on the measures in 2026 administration that will be this spring at the end of March. Principals are also being required to present the results of their analysis to the superintendent, to me, with the course of action to challenge performance based on analysis. Further, schools performing in the bottom quartile of any of the assessments are identified for more intensive intervention in the curricular areas affected. Review of survey results in family and community engagement, student behavior, discipline, and safety from the parents, staff, and students' perspective reflect an overall sense that schools are a safe and nurturing environment. 3-year behavior targets have been met, reflecting a much reduced discipline rate across the district, as well as nearing the 90% attendance rate, which is at 88% so far this year. Data for students with multiple infractions is also improving, reflecting 3 or more infractions is down 3% with a goal of 2% overall. 67% of students surveyed agree that their schools are safe, while 82% see them as being supportive of learning. Parents' perceptions of school safety is at 80%, surpassing the goal of 75%. That's in this strategic plan. And support for learning is 81%. Employee perceptions of school safety is 68%, with a target of 80%. The implementation of the Guam Police Department SRO program at all of our high schools has drastically reduced incidents requiring discipline measures or law enforcement intervention. The entire community is aware of the many challenges that we've seen with repairs and maintenance. The current situation regarding the meeting and requirements of law have all schools certified, inspected, and passed by the Department of Health, and the schools are certified now and in a cycle of maintenance and re-inspection so that we are never again going to be in the former state of disrepair. Generations of deferred maintenance due to lack of funding brought some schools near collapse and 2 deemed unrepairable after Typhoon Omar. The GDOE crew, with the help of the Office of the Governor, multiple government agencies and non entities, parents, military, volunteers, and local contractors tasked to bring in a 5-year estimated effort in just over a year. It was a near miracle. The effort was monumental, with the disruption to the flow of classes and on-time opening. However, we are now in a mode of continuing maintenance and re-inspection so that health certificates are never at risk again. This, of course, is contingent upon sustaining defense funding for maintenance and repair in subsequent budgets. The current school year opened on time with all students on their scheduled campuses and nearly all re-inspections prepared for school year 26-27 already. The progress we have made is truly the result of an entire community coming together to support children and their education. I give credit to our team of professionals, community stakeholders, and especially mayors. I also applaud the parents who work with us to help make things better for our children. I commend all our teachers and administrators, including support staff and auxiliary services, for the relentless dedication and commitment to the turn and the tide of our students. I did want to put this one graphic here so we can see it. I talked about areas that needed work, but when we look 3rd to 4th grade, now we're tracking students in growth from the year that we started. So we took their third grade scores and their fourth grade scores in subsequent years. So we're looking at cohort growth. And so we had an increase from 11 to 13% proficient in the third to fourth grade transition. Fourth to fifth, we had a 14 to 17% increase. And then in the sixth grade to seventh grade, that's a tricky one. Kids going into middle school, still showing growth, 6% growth in 1 year. And then we had a flat line between seventh and eighth grade, and if you raise the middle schooler, you probably could speculate why. But we see that when we're going in math, we're having some problems, but so is the whole nation. So we're really looking to deep dive into what to do with our math from third grade to fourth grade and fourth grade to fifth grade. However, sixth to seventh grade and seventh to eighth grade, they're increasing immediately. Our high school results, there's no cohort data because we're only testing 11th graders. So, but their performance is still lacking in that. But I would like to close by restating my position and vision for the Guam Department of Education. We are all one crew. There are no passengers on this journey. And by the way, a command change does not mean a mission change. Press on, GD.